In its final season of operation, the Catalyst 317 Indy Elite Series has a number of fantastic IndyCar racing tracks on its calendar. And the last round of the season takes place in just a few weeks' time at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the 10th annual Indianapolis 500 presented by Catalyst 317. But the penultimate race tonight is at the Grand Prix of Long Beach, the Long Beach Street Circuit, one last road racing venue for the Indy Elite Series before it wraps up and completes. And we're here just on the streets of Long Beach at one of the most spectacular street racing facilities in the world. It's been around for decades, and it's here for decades to come. Kyle Heyer joined by Finney and DeCuna. Finney, the championship is close to wrapping up, but it's a small field tonight, so it's going to be aggressive out here on the streets of Long Beach.
Yeah, and this is going to be a great chance for drivers like Jesper Orman and Hamilton Oxley to find their way back into the championship fight, especially because we're looking at the entry list, and so far no Jacob Oster, who is our points leader, and after a rough round at Nashville where he had a speeding penalty, knocking him down the order, this is the last thing he needs, but great for his competitors to catch up in the final waning moments of this championship.
Yeah, great temperatures here, just under 70 degrees Fahrenheit in the air, about 96 degrees on the racetrack, relatively humid, 69% humidity, just a light breeze out of the southwest. The sights and sounds of the streets of Long Beach. This is a place that I haven't streamed at here in iRacing since I visited it for the first time in real life last April for GT America powered by AWS. Really cool spectacle around here, and getting to walk the track a little bit, check out the scenes and the sights. I get why people love this place so much. I get why so many teams, drivers mark this place on the calendar, and tonight we've got a field of about 13 drivers that will try to get a win here before the season is out. Looking at the beautiful artwork here in iRacing, and one of the cool, unique things, at least from my perspective, the last time I was here, that big convention center, that's where the paddock was for us in the GT cars, inside. I'd never seen that before. Yeah, it was like a massive garage, basically. Very cool. But qualifying is underway, Finney. Let's head down to the racetrack. Let's talk championship scenarios. You mentioned Jacob Oster not here, at least yet, so that opens up things wide open for Jesper Orman in the number 4.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's no way for him to mathematically tie him at this point heading into Indianapolis, but he can still get a decent chunk of change, up to nearly 50 points for the winner, getting all the maximum points in all the bonuses. So that would put him pretty much at neck pace with them, and that's good because, again, for Indianapolis, there's 1.5 times points, not exactly double points, but 1.5 times points, up to 90 points available for the winner. So he just needs to make sure, and I almost don't want to say, because I said this for Oster at Nashville, he just needs to make sure he doesn't have a mistake-free weekend, and he will be in for a very solid point haul, getting him back in this fight on par with Oster. But I said that with Jacob Oster, and he had that speeding penalty at Nashville. That was a huge deal.
Yeah, it cost him a lot of points. Jesper Orman starts a flying lap, but he wound up for it at the final corner, didn't he, at the hairpin. Down the long stretch here into turn 1. This is a fast racetrack, carry a lot of speed. Watch those walls. They'll bite one little touch. It could end your entire night. Up on the curbing there at the fountain. Ooh, big bounce and into the wall there. Yeah, and that's going to cost him big time.
Tapped the wall, and it looks like he's backed out of the lap. These guys have 3 laps available for them in qualifying. Orman looks like he's going to have to wind it back down, get ready for one final push. Meanwhile, Hamilton Okwubezi, glad to see him back on the streets of Long Beach after missing the last 2 events, and coming back strong, sitting on provisional pole. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him up there, because we know he is very good when it comes to road racing.
I love the livery of this car. The pink and the yellow is a striking color scheme here, right up against the wall. Entering this section, if you were watching YouTube the last couple of days, you might have seen Formula Drift take on the streets of Long Beach. That's always a spectacle in itself, using this final section in one of their major competitions. And up onto the front straightaway, he will call it quits there before he begins that final lap. All the while, Orman, I think, has come back around to take another green.
Yeah, this is going to be the last chance to get a lap in. So, you know, he's got a decision to make. Does he push hard, try to get pole, or does he push maybe 90-95% and then try to get a decent lap inside the top 5? He's got a bit of a decision to make, because we know passing is difficult at Long Beach. Had a little bit of a lock up there heading to the fountain. And then this is where he made a mistake last time, went off wide into the wall, almost hit it again, but just kept off of it.
So close there. And right out to the wall at the exit of turn 4. I love this place. You can just, it's one of those places where the exits are so wide that you can really accelerate and drift the car out to the wall. Unlike a place like Belle Isle in Detroit, where it feels like you're always constrained by the walls on corner exit. Here you've got just enough room to get up to speed, really kick the rear end out, slide up out to that outside wall without touching it. Those curbs on the inside, you can get very aggressive here in something like qualifying. Orman through the last few corners here into this hairpin, one of the tightest corners I can think of in road racing. Spins up the rears a bit. What does he have? He needs a 105.9 to go to the top of the board, and it will be a 107.6. That'll be a disappointing qualifying effort for Orman.
Yeah, after all that build-up of him trying to get a lap, and unfortunately down the order, and I'm not sure if he's going to be backed it off or made a couple mistakes. It's not at least one mistake, one definitive mistake for him, so unfortunately he's going to be starting from the back. You're going to see him have to climb his way up forward to earn those points if he wants to get them.
Andreas like testing the pit entry there a little. David Adams comes across the stripe. I think he is just completing a lap, or he's already gone. Yeah, just completed his third lap and jumps up a spot actually over Andrew Marquez, so he'll go to P5. Julian Altena has got one more lap put in the bank here.
Yeah, it's going to be one final attempt for him, both time-wise and lap-wise. Gets back there on the racetrack and be one of the last few drivers to put in a time down. Looks like Mark Murphy is not going to be putting a time down. Wow,
you see Hamilton Moise over the curbs there. Really aggressive. Go back and have a look at that. You can do this here. You can cut these curbs in a big way, but watch the floor of the car. He's going to turn in and 4 tires up off the ground there, bouncing pretty wildly. That's to the point where you're going to have trouble putting power down on corner exit, but looks like he's still in the green a little. He might be able to go quicker than his 105.9, and that's a lot faster than the next quickest car, almost half a second quicker.
And we'll see if he can get something out of it. Lock up into the hairpin, off the hairpin, and to the lines. He might actually improve by a hair, if not tie his best lap.
500's off. Close, though. I don't think it counted. He got into the wall there on it. Here comes Julian Altena to start his final lap, and he's the last driver. Andrew Woods got one more he could use, but he's not going to have enough time to use it now. Let's talk strategy for this race. Going to start on those softs. Overtaking here is a huge challenge in an Indy car. So start on the softs and go to the primary later in the race, you think, or start on the primaries and switch to the alternate later?
Yeah, it's going to be a big question mark, really, see what they're going to do. We know it's going to be at least a 2-stop race, so 3 stints, so you got to pick. You want to go 2 on the alternates or 2 on the primary, and then you obviously have to use the other one at some point. And of course, being a street race, we have the green wall alternate tires instead of the red one. I forgot how you say the name of that color. It's like,
to be honest, didn't know that there was a difference. This is the first time I've ever seen this in iRacing.
That just shows how long you've not driven in iRacing, because they updated this, I want to say, at least a year ago.
We haven't done a street race in IndyCar in so long.
There are, to be fair, there aren't that many street races. Essentially, Detroit and here, I think, are your only real choices.
This is the first this season. Altena goes to 8th. That knocks Orman down to 11th place, and I know that he doesn't have to perform, super well here tonight because we have no Jacob Oster, but you really want to take advantage of a night like tonight, right, when your primary opponent is not here.
Well, the thing is that Orman has missed out on a race. So remember, there is the drop week for these drivers as well. So there's a drop for him. So obviously you don't want to use it, like you mentioned, when your competition is not here, not present. You want to take advantage of that and get as many points as you can. And we know he's quick. He is a quick driver. It's just that, unfortunately, he's going to be starting from a very low point down the order. So he's going to have to find a way to get himself back up there and challenge and see if he can get a really solid points all out of here, heading to the final race of the season.
Yeah, great scenes around here at the streets of Long Beach. Fond memories. I had a fun time here last year, mostly because with SRO there was only one series that we had there that weekend, so we had to work for a total of 80 minutes over the course of the weekend. The rest was just hanging out and watching IMSA and IndyCar and all the rest of the stuff that came with it. So it was a fun week. We had garages that faced this part of the racetrack, so you could kind of watch some things here. But really, really fun track. This is one of my favorite street circuits, I have to say. Well, 13 cars. The only driver that didn't get a lap time, Mark Murphy, didn't make a qualifying attempt. He will start at the tail of the field. So championship scenarios, 1.5 points at Indianapolis in a couple of weeks' time as well.
Yes, as far as point scenarios, Hamilton Akaweze kind of out of it at this point. You ended up missing those 2 rounds earlier in the season. Sorry, not earlier in the season, missed the last 2 rounds in the later part of the season, National Mid-Ohio. So he's effectively kind of out of it. It's really mostly down to Orman and Oster at this point. And so it's really now just because Oster's not here, just a matter to see how many points Orman can get out of this weekend. Or if he finishes the race, you never know, because starting back down the order, there's always the chance that he gets wrapped up in someone else's mistake, especially when you're trying to push hard out here.
51 laps. This race will take us just under an hour once the green flag flies. And the trouble spot here, I always think, on the initial start, down at turn 1, the exit of this corner is so incredibly tight. And then you head to the fountain where things continue to get tighter and tighter. It's so easy to find yourself kind of ping-ponging from wall to wall here, Finian. So this opening lap, you have to be cautious, but with a level of aggression that might get you a spot or two, because once you get single file, it's really hard to overtake. It might come down to the strategy in the pit stops at that point.
It really might, and you mentioned the opening lap too. Big thing, cold tires. You trying to get these tires worn up, trying to push. You have to find that, that middle ground, because we see so many crashes in that first sector around the fountain section and the corners following. So that's another thing you guys got to keep an eye on. Is didn't realize that they moved the gridding spot. Honestly, I kind of like that, because there was not much time from pacing to green down the older part where they put on the back straightaway, the main back straightaway.
Turn 8, the elevation from turn 7 up to turn 8 is pretty surprising when you go there in the real world. They've done away with the curbs there on the inside apex now. That turn is a lot tighter and a little bit more open now as far as the entry, because those curbs are not there. Then the run up to turn 9, this is another trouble spot. Good overtaking opportunity if you can get it done. Then you sweep around through turn 10, that left-hander that's on the right side of your screen, and then this one, turn 11. Oh boy. That's a trouble spot. Maybe with a field of 13 it'll be a little easier to navigate, but boy, can you stack them up over there.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen so many crashes. I mean, that's one of the most iconic corners of many on this racetrack. Yeah, we have the field taking to pacing around here.
Let's have a look at our starting lineup. Kicking things off on the front row, Hamilton Akabueze in the number 7. He's found a lot of success this season, is 3rd in the championship, too far back to really realistically win it, but a handful of victories coming at Milwaukee Mile and Iowa Speedway. I had a 16th at Road America, but rebounded recently up at Pocono Raceway to 4th. We haven't seen him in a while, so good to have him back, and he'll start alongside Pedro Blevel in the number 3, Finian.
And moving on back to row number 2, Andre Teichman starting off in the 76 machine, a decent qualifying effort for him, as well as Rayshad Craig in the number 21, going alongside him in 4th.
David Adams starts top 5 in the 00. Andrew Marquez rolls off 6th in the number 63.
Back in row 4, AJ Musselman, 54 car lineup in 7th place. Next to him, Julian Altona, 11th in the number 8 machine.
Then it's Andrew Wood in the number 64. Craig Forsyth in the number 99 starts in 10th.
Moving on back, we find Jesper Orman, 2nd place in the points, seeing if he can make up some solid points out of Long Beach. Then Joe Branch in 12th in the 28, and rounding out your field of 13 cars, Mark Murphy in the 69 machine.
Well, that's your starting lineup. 51 laps here at the streets of Long Beach, the penultimate race of the season. Here we go. Green flag, and we're underway. Blevel gets an amazing start. Where'd our pole sitter go?
Keep recovery set fuel. He's starting from the pits.
Oh, that is unfortunate. Down into turn 1, big lunges in the background. That's Julian Altona popping out of line. See what he can do. That is huge for Akabueze. A little side-by-side deeper in the field there. Andrew Wood, Craig Forsyth, there's Jesper Orman picking up a spot by virtue of that mistake by Akabueze. That is heartbreaking for the number 7. That's going to cost him what could have been a race victory. Who knows how things would have panned out if he had started up front.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's great for Orman, because it's another driver he probably wouldn't have been able to catch up to, because we know that Akabueze is quick. A dive for Andrew Wood to the inside of AJ Musselman into a corner, then heading back, turn onto the back straight of the right-hander. And we'll get the spot there. David Quicksort, Forsyth, AJ Musselman in behind, but Blevel leading. And then for 2nd place, a dive for Craig. Didn't feel comfortable with it, backed out.
Here comes Craig Forsyth on Andrew Wood into turn 9. He's going to get that done. Whoa, trouble. Altona's in the fence, turn 9, and he's out.
Oh no, already on lap 1, one driver retired. And big damage to that car.
Yeah, I think he probably just got in here too hot. He was already missing his wing.
Yeah.
And just went straight in. It did not stop. Where did he lose that? Was it?
Well, he lost it in pieces, actually, it seems like. This is where he stepped out first, and then, oh, that's a hard hit there into the tires. They lost the front, that half of the front wing there, and then the right-hander here went wide because he had no downforce, did the other half in.
That's not the way you want to start a race at Long Beach. Got to stay out of the concrete to make it to the end. Andreas Ike feeling pressure from Rashad Craig.
And Craig, I think, feeling comfortable because now he's got a great chance to make up some spots here with Hamilton Akabueze out of the picture. And just Ike and Blubble the challenge. Ike, drifted out wide. I heard something hit the wall. And he might have some damage.
You don't see a lot, but every time you hear that from a distance, you know it can't be good. But Rashad Craig putting some pressure on Andreas Ike here. And with how easy it is to make mistakes here, anybody in the top 5 could win just by attrition here. We've always seen this be a pretty high attrition race. Ike is wide. Here comes Craig on the inside, but can't get the power down push to pass on.
Yeah, I didn't mention too, as far as strategy, tires, tire-wise are concerned, we're looking at Andreas Ike, the highest runner on the primary tire, the slower tire. And then most of the top 5 pretty much running on alternates. Everyone in the back out of the field, though, taking the primary tire. So a decent mix, about 50-50, I want to say, across the field.
David Adams up to 4th place. This could be a podium day for him as he chases this battle for 2nd through turns 4 and 5.
Now Mark Murphy also has a meatball flag with damage to his car.
Oh, and trouble up front. The race leader, Pedro Blebel, cut to live. He's been in the wall. No. He's got damage on the front wing and dodging other cars out of turn 5.
A lot of struggle here, and for him, looked like it was completely self-inflicted. Went over that curbing and into the wall. The curbing we talked about, where you're like, oh, you can cut over that curb and get away with it. Well, actually, speaking of getting away with it, see Rashad Craig battling now for the lead.
Yeah, again, I said attrition. There it is. Rashad Craig goes to the top spot over Andreas Ike. David Adams is now firmly in this battle for the race lead. So we'll have to see drivers come down pit lane. It's going to add an extra pit stop to their strategy, and more trouble this time for Blebel. He's gone in at turn 9, the same thing that happened to Altena.
Yeah, well, he's missing a wing, so that's one thing you have to really account for. So he's got some major damage. Mark Murphy's also got damage. He needs to pit. And yeah, no downforce there to slow him down or get the car rotated on entry.
Well, good thing he realized it and didn't try to make the corner. He just used that runoff area to avoid making contact and making things worse. But Rashad Craig takes the race lead. And it's been a good season for him. He's P4 in the standings. Has yet to win a race, has best finish of 3rd back at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. But he could win this thing, but you just got to keep it out of the walls.
Yeah, turn 5, typically a treacherous corner, and we saw that level ended up getting plain bare. We'll see, but I have a feeling it won't be the first time.
Yeah, this is cutting back to see what happened to him. He was leading all by his own.
Right there.
Jumped the curbs, tank slapped into the tires and went around for a loop.
Oh, and Andreas Ike there just narrowly avoiding disaster. So Rashad Craig taking the lead on the faster alternate tires, and Ike's trying to keep up the pace, maintain behind him. They got David Adams, Andrew Marquez, Craig Forsythe. Forsythe also having a decent run here. Started in 10th, already up to 5th, and part of that was due to attrition, but also made a couple passes here and there.
Yeah, P5. As you pointed out, 10th to 5th, which overtaking's hard, but crashing isn't. And so he's been able to make it by a couple of people that had struggles with that. So just a lot of attrition like we normally expect. 3 drivers out, Blebel, Murphy, Altena. Blebel and Murphy might return to the racetrack, but at this point, for what, right? I mean, going to be no championship on the line for those drivers. It's helped Orman a lot. This could have been a bad day with how far down he qualified. He's managed to survive it so far. But just making it to the end of this race has proven to be a challenge in the past, and the same is true today.
Yeah, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on because, the race is still young. We're only 5 laps into a 51-lap race, and especially being on those slower tires, you saw Ike. He ended up getting damage. We don't know if he got a lot of damage, but he ended up making contact with the apex wall, and that was through turn 7, and the right-hander onto the back straightaway. So it's tough on these primary tires. It looks like for the most part they managed to get heat in them now about 5 laps into this run. So it should be a little bit easier to manage on out, but again, he's still got to push hard because look who's behind him actually. He's Hamilton Akabueze, so he's now starting to become a threat.
Yeah, and he was fast. He was a lot faster than everybody, and he was faster than everyone on the racetrack last time by, with the exception of the race leader, Rashad Craig. So Akabueze could still be a threat for a top 5 easily. I think maybe a race win will be challenging without a full course yellow or something of the sort, which we have had here in the past, if you recall.
We have, yes, and the pace car was very slow. I think they fixed that. Yeah, pace car now goes at least 45. Pace car, I think, used it at like 20 or 25.
Yeah. Yeah. We remember it was a day. Longest broadcast in SimTV history, it felt like. But Rashad Craig having a great run out here, and he just ran the best lap of the, well, at least of his race. Akabueze has still run quicker, 107.6. But you mentioned that 7 is on the charge. Here he comes on Orman.
Looking to make a move, and I think for Orman is, kind of that thing he has to think about right here is, does he want to let Hamilton Akabueze on by? Because the point's going away, but he's got the tire advantage, and he knows he's the quicker driver.
Hamilton is so much quicker. And his car looks a little twitchy, but honestly, he's been able to wrestle it. The other drivers that have had twitchy setups have been wheeling it today.
Doesn't use any push pads. In fact, both Orman and Akabueze have used 0 push pads.
Yeah, he's been pretty conservative back here right now, which is interesting to me. We've heard him let off going into the braking zones.
I think it might be he's trying to extend. I think he might be planning to run most of this race on the alternates, or at least one of the stints long on the alternates.
Those curves, big jump there. If he can easily get by Orman, I think he'll go for it. Looks like he's going to do it.
There he goes. Gonna find the opportunity. There goes the dive into turn 6, and we'll get up 1 spot to 8th. And now has 2 more drivers directly ahead of him, Musselman and Wood, before he gets to the faster runners on the alternates as well.
Out front, Rashad Craig leads by 2.7 seconds. Andreas Ike, David Adams, 2nd and 3rd. For David Adams, this would be a really strong day, wouldn't it? Where is he in the standings? P7. His best finish of the season was a 4th. That came back at Texas. Other than that, it was an 8th place at Milwaukee and Mid-Ohio. So this would be a season day if he could wrap this up in 3rd.
Actually, for Rashad Craig, we get to talk about him running up in the lead, and Hamilton Akabueze to way down the order. This would easily put him past Hamilton Akabueze for 3rd in the standings before accounting for drop leads.
That's a pretty good battle that you point out. Rashad Craig 4th in the standings, but just 14 behind Akabueze at the moment. And that's obviously the points before the race began. Love that drop into turn 8. That's a much bigger hill than you would anticipate it. It would be fun as a street race in San Francisco. Can you imagine the elevation changes there?
Yeah, I guess the issue would be the trolley tracks in some parts, especially in those hillier sections. So depending where they can find a place to
not run over them.
Hose it up. Yeah, but I feel like these cars in particular would probably not be running over that kind of elevation.
Where are you at?
I mean, they are looking for a rotating street race, so.
You know what? I was actually, a couple months ago, I was downtown as we watched AJ Musselman give way to Akabueze here. I was driving downtown in Chicago, and, well, I thought he was going to give way. He's just defending. Drove on some of the new pavement from the street course. It's really nice. they redid some road work for us down there. And Akabueze through to 7th place. He now mounts his next charge onto Andrew Wood up in 6th place. So this 7 car is flying. And still a little slower than Rashad Craig, but faster than basically everyone else ahead of him.
Yeah, and Rashad Craig is really, I think, loving that Andreas Ike's kind of holding up everyone else. Ike, Adams, Marquez, Forsythe in a close knit trail. And Ike leading on the slower tire. It's holding up David Adams, who doesn't quite seem to have the pace to get past the number 76.
Yeah, this race, again, we said attrition in the past, it's always been that. Follow someone long enough, pressure them long enough, they will make a mistake. They will touch the concrete, and their day will be over. Blebel is still in the pits, 6 laps down. Murphy and Altena officially out. That leaves 11 runners on the racetrack. It's all right, make that 10 runners on the racetrack. Joe Branch
interesting. AJ Musselman coming into the pits, getting off the primary tire, I would imagine, because he did not really run long on them. So that's telling me that the alternates, you could probably run them a long time. We're looking at around 20 laps on a stint, give or take a couple laps.
It surprises me a little just because it's a relatively hot track, 102 degrees, mix of concrete and asphalt. I would think that this would be a pretty tough track on the tires, a lot of sliding, a lot of braking, but they seem to be holding up pretty well for those on the alternates.
Yeah, which is surprising because at some of the other tracks we've seen the alternates not last long at all. So I'm wondering if maybe the lower speed, because there's not a lot of high downforce corners around here, so maybe that could be it. Maybe that's probably taking off some of the load.
I'd think that you'd cook your rears before your fronts, just with the acceleration zones here. But Rashad Craig was running low 108s, which the best laps of the day have been in the high 107s, and honestly, Andreas Eich on the black tire is in the low 108s, or sorry, high 108s, so he's not quicker at all. So I do think that the primary doesn't really seem to be the tire of choice, at least for a 10 to 12 lap run.
Right, and I think that might have been, that's why I'm thinking that's Musselman just, get me off these tires, they're slow, and feels that he can run alternates to the end of the race. And we have another driver pitting, that's Ormanen, and looking to see what he's going to do. If we see something similar, there he is jumping on the alternates, and he kind of needs to do something, I don't want to say risky, but he definitely could needs to find a way to get around the faster, or essentially the slower cars ahead of him.
Yeah. Look at the gap that Craig has put on Eich and Adams the last few laps. It was recently 2.5 seconds. It's now 5.2. So Craig is building himself a nice margin. I like having margin at a street track because you don't have to push yourself so hard and put yourself in harm's way so much as far as the walls.
Battle out of the pits. Orman comes just ahead of AJ Musselman. And Musselman on already warmed up tires. Orman trying to get them warmed up to speed. I think he shouldn't have too much of an issue here, but could be a potential pass for position. Not sure if this is Orman passing Musselman. Not sure if he was behind him before.
I think he was ahead of him before.
He was, yeah. So Orman made pass on the track while Musselman was in the pit. So good call on strategy for Orman. Got the spot and should be able to hold on to it.
David Adams trying to apply some pressure to Andreas Eich. Just can't tell if Eich is holding up this group. I would anticipate that he is, just because of how tight the gaps have been behind Eich. More pressure perhaps from Adams than from Marquez. The challenge here with that turn 5 curbing that we've seen drivers make a mistake on is when you get the car airborne on those big curbs, you can't put the throttle down. You'll spin up the rear so easily there. So as long as you coast over them and then accelerate after you land, you're good.
That's easier said than done, though. That's your fractions of a second that make up the difference. And as a driver, you get kind of that programming. You kind of know when you want to get back on the throttle, when you don't want to get on the throttle. And any change to that, you kind of find yourself in foreign territory, and that's when you see the mistakes arise. And already we have a couple drivers retired: Altona, Mark Murphy, and Pedro Blevell retired. So 10 drivers left on the racetrack.
This has always historically been a lower participation race and a higher attrition race, and I think it's just because the challenge of overtaking, the ease of ruining your night, just make this an unattractive philosophy. There was actually a vote to replace this track with the Portland circuit, and this track won the vote, so I was surprised to see that, to be honest, even though I love this place a lot. But it has bitten a couple of drivers tonight, and Andrew Wood is going to have Akabueze close in here pretty shortly.
I wonder if those drivers that voted for Portland were the drivers that retired.
Well, and maybe some of the drivers that voted for Portland aren't here, if I had to guess.
Fair enough, Joe. True to that. Hamilton Akabueze up to Andrew Wood. And Wood announcing he is coming into the pits this time by, so Akabueze not going to have to do much work on him. See,
Akabueze is able to be a lot more aggressive over the apex curves, and the car doesn't get as unsettled as some of the others. And this is down to that setup, I think, that they've sorted out. Andreas Eich has peeled off from second place into pit lane, just barely.
Yep, and so we're seeing a lot of the primary tire drivers coming in earlier, and the alternates, interestingly enough, extending it. So that's telling me that the primary tire is just the tire you're getting on it to get it out of the way, make your compound, run the other tire for as short of a time as you can, and then run alternates to the rest. To the end for the rest of this race. I
suppose it's worth considering that this is a different tire compound than we would typically see for the alternate, correct? Or is it just rebranded?
I think technically it's rebranded. iRacing is not really specific. I think it's just a match because in real life, I believe it is a different tire. Of course, for a lot of these series, they run actual different tires at every track, but they get branded as, alternate, primary, depending on what weekend it is.
Yeah, I just wonder what the... if there is a performance difference, if that is contributing to the duration, because, again, I'm surprised that this tire is able to last as long as it is. I know we're lower downforce here, but just the amount of acceleration sliding around, heavy braking zones, I wouldn't expect it to be that dominant regardless, or the fall-off is just going to be a lot stronger and later. Which is dangerous because we haven't gotten to that point yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, you said 20 lap runs on fuel, right? So we're going to get pretty close to that here.
Just about, tanks about just near about empty, so we're going to start seeing more and more drivers peeling off to the pits in the coming laps. But Rashad Craig running very comfortably in the lead. Now that David Adams has some clean air, let's see if he has a chance to open up the taps or if he's going to be kind of maintaining back here. But Rashad Craig, he's kind of really stepping up to the plate. I think he knows this is his best chance of getting a win before the series is wrapped up.
Yeah, one more race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at the end of the month. It is a 500-mile event at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And so this is the last road race of the Catalyst 317 Indy Elite Series, at least for the foreseeable future. So last opportunity to really capitalize on this, where you can really control your own destiny. And today, Rashad Craig, as you said, stepping up to the plate.
And for him, best finish in this series was third twice, once at Texas last year and this year at Mid-Ohio, which we saw. That's where you kind of saw that he's been pretty good on these road courses, especially for this season. 37 starts for him, no wins. Could be his first, should he maintain things as they are, because it looks like Hamilton Aquaboise might just not have the time to catch up to him. I think we can see Aquaboise taking Forsythe, Marquez, and Adams, especially as he's not too terribly far behind them at the moment.
I guess for Rashad Craig, the question is, does Aquaboise have time to get back to him? 13.5 seconds. He's running times that are a little bit slower than Rashad Craig, but 13 seconds. His trend has actually been a gain since the start of the race. He's got one of his pit stops out of the way, but he'll still owe us.
Technically, I don't think that counts the pit stop because he started. I was at the start of the race. It wasn't like he came in after the green came out.
Yeah.
So
he'll still owe us the two.
Yeah.
But his pace is good enough that I think if he can clear Forsythe here, get some more clear track, he might be able to run down Rashad Craig. We still have a long ways to go here, so I wouldn't count him out just yet. What a drive that would be from the tail of the field. That
would be a really great drive. I'm assuming Craig has that in the back of his mind that Hamilton Aquaboise could come flying up from behind him, especially depending on how the pace is looking on the slower primary tires. That could be all the difference. If Craig has nothing and Hamilton Aquaboise can push those tires a little bit more.
Closing in on Craig Forsythe here for fourth place. Forsythe and Forward have not pit. Actually, really, Joe Branch and Forward have not pit. And as I say that, Branch loses a spot to Andreas Syke. And you see the wing missing on the left front of the 28. Is this new?
Might be. I didn't even notice. I was wondering, he looked a little bit slower and off the pace. Yes, this was turn 7. Seems to be one of the other trouble spots for today.
And pretty straightforward. Just got in there really hot, brakes hot, bam, into the tires.
It's so easy because there's a lot of commitment into that corner, and if the tires aren't there to catch you, you're going to go sliding off in that tire bundle that's there.
Aquaboise putting more pressure on Forsythe now. So now it's just the top 5 that owe us their first pit stop of the day. Will we use push to pass here, or is he going to be more conservative with this and save it for the end of the race? We haven't really seen him be on the button yet.
He has been one of the few drivers to not even touch it, him and Orman. Sitting in behind.
You see how patient he's been the whole race. He's been extremely patient, waiting for his opportunity to strike, not forcing overtakes.
I think what he might be wanting to do is saving those seconds for when he's got cleaner air. He can really try to hunt down Rashad Craig. But looking at an aggressive cut over the curb. It's going to be side by side heading towards turn number 6.
Yeah, he's been so good over the rumbles in turn 5, specifically on the outside. That was a big move there. And now into turn 8. The track will go back his way, and he's through to 4th place. What a drive. This 7 car is on rails today, isn't it?
I mean, you're seeing why he got pole position, unfortunately.
By half a second.
Yeah. By, the configuration of the car, unfortunately, wasn't set up properly, so for him having to start from the pits. But hey, that's a great show. Watching him trying to drive up through the order. Yeah, but the overall gap up to the leader has actually grown because Rashad Craig just ripped out another best lap of the race. So 107, or for him anyway, 107.833. That's his personal best on lap 18. So what does that tell you about the condition of that alternate tire today? That thing's a really great race tire. It is, especially this far into the run. Yeah, I think it's also got to give credit to Rashad Craig. That's good tire management as well, to be able to carry those tires. Still with that much performance on the table that far into the run, that tells me he's not really been pushing extremely hard. At least he's not pushing to the point where he's sliding on the tire, overheating it. and then losing the grip. So he's been managing his race pretty well, despite pushing 10 seconds between himself and second place David Adams. So great job for the 21 machine.
And doing an excellent job today. This could be his race to lose. Despite the charge that Akabueze is making, Akabueze hasn't made any inroads on the 21, at least lately, maybe since the start of the race, but this 21 has really seized this opportunity. Starting lap 20, though, still more than half the race to go, and there's a lot that can happen between now and then.
Take a look back at where Foreman is running at, and he is still in 8th place, hasn't made a lot of inroads. In fact, Musselman's not too terribly far behind him. This is not exactly what the 4 machine needs, but I guess for him, he's trying to see if he can manage these tires, because again, if he's planning on going nearly 20 laps on these tires, he's going to have to give up a little bit of pace, but the pace is I want to say a little bit too slow compared to Andrew Wood and Andreas Lyke up ahead.
Yeah, he's on new alternates. Everyone on the racetrack right now is on the alternate tire. Orman is 8 laps into his stint on these, and he's running 1.1 seconds slower than Rashad Craig on 20-lap-old alternates. So that is not going to do it today as far as the pace is concerned. And some drivers really seem to click and like this street racing format. Because, yes, it's road racing, but it's like a different style of road racing. You got to be more aggressive as far as, jumping up on curbs and being okay with sliding the rear end a little bit, and being especially able to handle the bumps. I think that's something I've always struggled with in open-wheel cars and iRacing is tracks that have a lot of bumps to them. I never really feel like I'm in the track, as David Adams pits from 3rd place, where some of the smoother tracks, places like Watkins, I'm a lot better at.
Yep, and Craig Forsett also in as well. So first of the leaders come on down, and Rashad Craig, Andrew Marquez, Hamilton Rockways, and Manager are going to be coming in the next lap or 2. We're starting to get up on that upper limit of the fuel window. And Craig there using up all the racetrack.
I was going to say, move those concrete blocks almost for him, it seems.
Andrew Marquez and Hamilton Rockways closing on one another.
I still remember the first time I called a street race. It was on a television broadcast, the GT America race at the streets of Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
When someone hit one of those concrete barriers, I recited that they are 9,000 pounds apiece, and someone called BS on me, and I fact-checked, and I was correct. 9,000 pounds per block.
I think people don't realize how heavy concrete is. It is very heavy. It is very dense.
Yep.
Is the other thing I think that people severely underestimate.
I mean, a 3,000-pound car hit it at 100 miles an hour, and it moved. So just a little bit. Think about how much weight it has to be to not go very far when that happens.
Yeah, and there's a reason they use it as a barrier, because it is very heavy and typically doesn't move a lot under high G impact. So Marquez in, Akabueze stays out, and so is Rashad Craig. He's also in. So Akabueze hypermiling it a bit.
Yeah, so he'll take the lead. I don't think he was able to lead that lap quite yet.
No.
So still hasn't led a lap in the race that he started on pole for. But and we saw him lifting and coasting a lot, and I think that's how he's gotten this extra lap out of it. But again, last lap was really strong, 108.2.
Yeah, I almost wonder if he's trying to, again, maybe the longer you can run on these tires, the better. If he's trying to get as many laps as he can get on this tire, and I don't think he's going to be able to push it to try to get one stop out of this. And I don't think you really want to, with how poor we've seen the primary tire. Speaking of which, David Adams and Craig Forsyth cycling out on the primary tire, everyone on alternates. Everyone else on alternates.
Yep. Adams to 4th for now. He'll cycle to 3rd once Akabueze hits pit lane. We'd expect to see him this time, but he does not. He's going to stay out again. So maybe he put that thing in a lower fuel map. Now, that's another question is, when he was in traffic kind of carving his way through, was he planning on getting out front? Because look at the pace now. 108 flat. That's very strong. Faster than Rashad Craig was running for most of the last few laps. So
for being 22 laps into a run, especially for him having to work through traffic, so he's got to work those tires at least a little bit harder.
Well, yeah, but I think he was being so patient that I wonder if he had saved a lot of extra fuel running a lower fuel map, and that's why he was 4, 5, 6 tenths slower than Craig for so long.
That could definitely be the case here for him. He's working through the middle part of the racetrack, and now I'm really questioning how long he's willing to carry it. That could also be why he's not been using the push-to-pass. Because when you use up the push-to-pass, that does use extra fuel. It's not just free energy, it's not electric energy. It's just putting using the engine for extra horsepower to the wheels. So use up more fuel. So if you're trying to fuel save, you really want to stay off of it as much as you can.
Yeah, he'd have to go another 3 laps to make the race distance on one stop. I don't know that that's, well, every time he passes the pit in, it makes me question myself even more. Because then he would be pitting coming to lap 25. He'd only need to go one more to make it, Finian. So maybe there's some strategy to this.
So I guess he's planning then on, because he would have to essentially go primaries all the way to the end to make this kind of work out.
Yeah. But again, the pit delta is 41 seconds. So you'd have to give up more than 41 seconds with the fuel saving and the primary. I don't know that he would give up that much over 25 laps. Ooh, that's tight.
Yeah, he went over the curbing and went out wide a little bit. So it's an interesting strategy. I mean, if he wanted to get back in this race, he had to make a bold call on the strategy.
I don't know that he needed to go this bold, though. He's fast enough. I think he could have run down Craig without skipping a pit stop. But he might.
If you're not fighting for a championship, might as well try to make this interesting, right? And you know what? I'll try this little unorthodox method.
Yeah, I'm just surprised he's the only one that is.
Because you do need the pace to make it work. If you don't have the natural pace to make it work, you're just going to be giving up time.
Well, he's the pace. Again, he's going to go to lap 25.
Well, he's definitely, at this point, I think he's definitely on it because he's pretty much at the point where he's saving. And it was interesting how you highlighted earlier. He was kind of coasting and saving. I thought he was just saving for, go an extra lap or two, but he apparently was really saving. And you can hear how early he gets off the throttle, but still puts in really good times.
Yeah, really good time. I mean, slower than Rashad Craig. Rashad Craig just ran his best lap of the race, a 107.4. That is also just shy of the fastest lap of the race. The fastest lap was Pedro Blebel, but he's out.
But considering the fact that Rashad Craig only ran, 5/10 faster with nearly 20 laps difference on the tire line, that's genuinely impressive on Akabuese's end that he's able to run anywhere of a decent lap with those tires being that old. But that shows you how even though we thought he was pushing maybe a little bit, he really wasn't pushing at all.
So now, coming to lap 26, if he pits now, if he does exactly the same thing that he did in this opening run, he can make it to the end on fuel. So this is going to be a one-stop race for him. He will have to put the primary tires on. But we'll see if that's the strategy he does, or maybe he'll do a splash and go. I don't know. But here he comes to pit lane.
Don't speed. That speeding penalty in the first race of the season at Homestead. But it looks like he's going to be A-OK heading to pits this time by. And there's Rashad Craig moving through the final sector towards the hairpin. And now we expect that Rashad Craig is going to pass him easily. But of course, Hamilton Akabuese trying to cut out an entire pit stop. And that's nearly 40 seconds to his name.
Yeah, so Craig's going to come out. Akabuese is going to leave the pit box here. He's going to be about 15 seconds behind, I think.
Yeah.
And so he's going to save 40. So do the math that he should eventually have a 25-second lead with he'll have the primary tires and a fuel save move. But 25 seconds, 25 laps, he can lose a second a lap and still win this race. Right out in front of Andrew Marquez for 4th place. That's a pass as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, technically he came in, when the whole sequence started, he was behind Marquez, so he'd been maintaining pace. He picked up speed. He picked up a lot of speed when he got the lead. Yeah, so he's been, and that's while fuel saving, which is the more impressive part. So he's maintained essentially his position with everyone else while saving a lot of fuel. So impressive job done by the 7. Now it's just a matter of seeing him execute. Of course, now this is the biggest chance for him to make an error is cold tires on a slower tire. That's a little bit harder to warm up, so obviously he can't push, but I think if any driver can manage it, it should be him in the number 7.
Jacob Oster, by the way, did get news on why he's not here tonight. Said act of God via floods moved back his moving plans a day, so didn't have a way to get back to the rig in time. So hope everything's all right for Jacob Oster, but he said, well, it'll make Indy more interesting. That it will.
I thought we could put a positive spin on it, and that is actually kind of better for us. Makes the points a little bit tighter, a little for Orm, and not that strong of a run, back in 8th, and hasn't made a whole lot of movement. He's got Craig Forsyth 3 seconds up the road, but I don't think he's really been making inroads on Craig Forsyth, who's on a slower tire.
Yeah, Forsyth was actually a half-second quicker last time, so things are not going well. That's actually something to note, is that the drivers on the primaries lapping in the 109s. Now, we mentioned that Hamilton Akabuese can give up to a second a lap and still make the strategy work. That's actually not that much when you consider that the other drivers on the primaries are lapping about a second slower than we'd expect. So we'll see. Next time by, we'll get a pretty good idea of where Akaboyes is going to be on pace, but he is also chasing David Adams. Now, let's also recall that he is, even if he got back on the normal strategy here, he's still running 4th. So he can still podium in this race anyways.
Easily.
But he's going for the win, I think.
I mean, again, for his point, might as well throw a bit of a gamble. Doesn't have really anything to lose out of the championship fight.
I'm just stoked that we've got this alternate strategy to think about in a relatively small field race. This is going to keep things interesting all the way to the end.
So, Akaboyes, I imagine a little bit slowed down by David Adams because he's got him in front. It looked like he was almost struggling to get up the pace off of the pit road. I'm not sure that was just me just catching at a weird time, but I thought he was going to be able to pass David Adams in the pits as well, but didn't quite get in front of him.
And that last lap time didn't record for me. I'm not sure if you have it on your end, but
108.8 for me.
Yeah, so that's within his realm. That's all he really needs to do, but it can't get a lot slower than that. I think he'll pick up a little pace once he gets past Adams, but that's a if for now.
Yeah, I think he should be. I think, again, he's also trying to take it easy. Again, he's still got to get those tires up to a decent temperature before he can really try to push and make inroads to Adams.
Brakes glowing on that 0-0, pushing hard into the turn 9 area. Marbles out there at turn 11 as well. Good thing you can't really get too far offline because you mathematically can't even make the corner if you're off the line too much.
Yeah, I was going to say you should not be anywhere near those marbles if you want to make the corner in one piece.
You're already hitting the tires anyway if you're off that far.
Usually the only time you end up there is because someone sent you there.
Yep. 108.5 for Akaboyes. That's much better. That was still in trail of the 0-0.
All over the rear wing of David Adams. Can't you see a pass here? He's been loving the passes into turn 6 out of this run right here. Cuts the curbing, gets a great run back on the throttle. I think Adams knows, there's not much point in fighting this.
Gives it up. Akaboyes to P3, so he'll be on the podium regardless. The question is, can he strategize his way to a victory? Now, I do think that continuing on the strategy is the only way for him to win because he is losing time to Rashad Craig otherwise, and Craig is going to finish out this race. Was Craig on the primaries before as well? Was he on?
He was on. He's done alternate.
So when he pits, he's going to have to put primaries on. That will put him on the same tire as Akaboyes at the end of the race, which I think is a benefit to the 7.
Yeah. Andreas Ike is set to go alternate all the way to the end. And then let's see who else. Yeah, and then almost everyone else has to go on the primaries if they're not on it already. David Adams and Craig Forsyth, the only other drivers on the primary compound at the moment.
Things are stacking up a little bit behind David Adams now. It's Adams, Marquez, and Wood all within a couple tenths of a second of each other. And then AJ Musselman has run down Jesper Orman, who continues to struggle here today. But
that's not looking good for the 4. Musselman, he got past him, and now he's about to get potentially passed back. And he's just not doing well on these alternate tires. He has actually caught up to Craig Forsyth. He's caught up about a second since we last checked on him. Ooh, tap on the wall on the exit. Right there for the number 4.
Bill Branch. Bubble spot again for him at turn 7, 8. He nosed in pretty hard that time. He had the 7 of Akaboyes working his way by and just never turned in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he tried to turn, but remember marbles.
Yep.
It's a huge lack in grip with update tires he made, so you got to be very careful offline.
Yeah, he did knock the nose in, and he's going to go wide here. Can he make the corner? Just. See if he'll come and replace that front wing. It looks like he will do just that.
Yeah, and Branch effectively out of it at the moment, just kind of out there getting laps in. Andrew Wood down on pit lane, and I believe he can also go alternate all the way to the end from this point onwards.
You're right about that, and this will be his final pit stop with just about 20 laps to go. So your window's open now.
AJ Musselman also in.
Yeah, so your window's open. You can pit now, use all your push pass and everything. You'll have plenty of fuel to the end. We saw Akaboyes push it to lap 20, the end of lap 25 on a tank of fuel, but that was with very intentional saving. Yeah. What's he doing now? Same thing, the big lifts and coasts, but he's not running that much slower. 109.2 is not fast, but it's not that slow.
Yeah, and I think again he's on setting his own pace, and he can afford to give up a decent amount of time. Craig, meanwhile, has to push, and again, he also has to go on the slower primary compound tire at some point as well.
Yeah. So how long do you think Craig's probably just going to take these alternates as far as he can? I'd imagine.
He kind of has to, as Craig Forsyth and Orman both come into the pits. Forsyth doing 10 laps on the primaries, and he is done.
And I think Craig will have to be paying attention to the lap times he's running, because he is running quicker than Akabueze. Akabueze rebounded that time with a 108.6. But as long as he's gaining, I would stay out. If Akabueze starts to eat into your advantage, I think that's when you should consider getting your pit stop out of the way, because he owes us one. It's just when and how long does he wait?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's one of the drivers that just was waiting to get on the primaries for as small a time as he can. And Orman back out on the alternates, which is what we expect him to do, and run these to the end of the race. But the question is, can he make up any time? And he's got AJ Musselman flying past him right there, and he'll actually get a decent gap put between himself and Musselman.
Yeah, so he's lost his position for all that. He's close to cutting the pit out rules there as well. So Akabueze is 20 seconds back now from Rashad Craig. Remember that just the pit stop delta alone is 41 seconds. So if they were to pit right now, or Craig was to pit right now, he would come out with a 20-second disadvantage to Hamilton Akabueze. So Craig has got to build the gap to that 7 car on that ticker as close to 40 seconds as he can in the next 10 laps or so. That's a lot to ask. And he only is running 3 or 4 tenths a lap quicker. Akabueze is getting some pretty good pace out of the primaries.
He's one of the few drivers who've been able to see pushed into the middle of the 8-second bracket. Everyone's been running high 108s. David Adams, by comparison, 108.8. Hamilton Akabueze pushing 108.6. So a couple tenths faster. Let's look at AJ Musselman catching up to Craig Forsyth. Both of them fresh off of pit road with fresh alternate tires.
Oh, big curb jump for Musselman there over turn 1. He's on the attack here. And Andreas Eich into pit lane. He'll jump on. Has he got alternates now for the end?
He is. Where is he? He hasn't come into his stall yet. And he should be going on alternates to the end. Up on the jacks. Tires off, tires on, and they will remain the same.
Off and away. This pit road exit is so long. It takes forever to leave the box here. And actually, Joe Branch has come back around. Remember that the last time he had the 7 go by him, he found himself in the wall. Same exact position here. And this time a little bit more careful off into that 8th corner.
Yeah, did the exchange a little bit earlier. Be on the safe side, so Akabueze on through and has got some decent amount of clear track. He's got next car ahead of him is Orman coming across start finish line now.
Andrew Marquez almost got in the concrete there, touched the marbles, ran a little wide. He's got Pedro Bleville coming in behind, who's back out on the racetrack, 10 laps down, just lapping for the fun of it at this point. He's got really no one to pass until we see a DNF from somebody else. Mark Murphy and Alton are the only drivers officially out of the race. Bleville 10 laps down. Tell you what, David Adams has been leaning on those binders, those glowing hot brakes in the front.
I mean, he's got some decent pressure behind him. He's got Marquez and potentially Andreas Eich once the cycle's out. Adams and Marquez both owe us a pit stop. Adams on the slower primary tires. He's going to be able to go switch back onto the alternates. And Andrew Marquez, I'm not sure. I don't think he's been on the primary tires this race just yet. Let me double check that. And no, he started on the alternates as well, so he's going to have to go on primaries.
Branch thought he was going to go straight again. It was Jesper Orman was slow that I saw on the timing screen, but that was because he was at turn 11, so no harm there. Rashad Craig, 14 laps into this run. He enters turn 1, probably about 5 or 6 laps away from making a pit stop. Still making really good time, 108.1 to Akabueze's 109.0. A lot less consistent this time for Akabueze on that primary tire. The 108.7, he's still within the realm where this is going to be his race to lose, provided he can make it to the end on fuel, which he should be able to do given how much he's been saving.
That's the thing too is that we have to consider is that he's running slower because he's also saving some fuel. He's not purely pushing. If he could push, he would be not necessarily on pace with Rashad Craig on the alternates, but a lot closer. But of course, bigger picture here, he's cut out that entire 40-second run down pit lane. You save a huge amount of time.
Yeah, big lift there into turn 6, but again, he can give up. He knows how much he can give up. If he can give up, I would give yourself 4 or 5 seconds worth just as a buffer for anything that happens on into or out of pit lane. But he can give up another 10, 12, 15 seconds and still be in the clear. Because once Craig pits, it's only going to be 5, 8 laps until the end of the race.
Yep, just about. And David Adams calling out, he's coming to pit road this time by. And there he goes.
And no one will follow him immediately. Into the pit lane for the 0-0. And Rashad Craig, man, he's done such a great job. And this race win could get plucked away from him after having such a dominant performance here, taking advantage of Webel's mistake and Akabueze's mistake. But it seems like the driver of the 7, Hamilton, has got a way to outsmart everybody else and sort of undo the problem he had earlier on that put him in the back. So Rashad Craig might lead 40-some-odd laps in this race and come up just short.
Well, I mean, we always talk about, when it comes to these street races, it always comes down to the strategy. Usually we talk about, when you make your pit stop and if you're switching compounds, which compounds you're switching onto. But also in this case, it's just, being the fuel strategy as well, which you didn't think was going to be a factor. But again, with Hamilton Akabueze, I think one of the few drivers to pull it off. You need to have some decent pace while you're saving fuel. And he's been able to check off both boxes in that respect.
And the other thing is, I don't think anyone really considered it as a strategy because A, it's not very fun, and B, why would you? If everyone else is going to make 2 stops, why don't I? The problem is Akabueze was already off sequence from the very beginning because of the mistake that he made, so it was really his only option if he wanted to win the race. Now, if he wanted to get a podium, 2 stops it is, but he has come out swinging for the fences after that mistake getting to the grid, and it might just work out.
Yeah, and looking at the pit delta, I'm trying to calculate it here. It's looking to be about 35 to 37 seconds. It's kind of what you're looking at is the gap between the drivers coming in and off pit road. So he's got a 22-second gap now. He can lose up to about 35, 37 seconds and still be in that window when Rashad Craig comes out. And even for Rashad Craig, when he comes out, he's coming out on a slower tire.
But the same tire that Akabueze has.
Yes.
So that's something to consider. It'll be fresher, but again, it takes. I would actually rather have the warm primaries than the cold ones.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure every driver would like that, the warm primaries than the cold ones, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, he's a couple of laps away from needing to make that stop. And for Akabueze, no wins on a road course this season. He's second at Indianapolis. Has 2 wins. They both came at Iowa Speedway and the Milwaukee Mile, so both oval tracks. And the road courses have actually been, he's only run a couple of them. He only ran IMS and Road America. IMS he had the 2nd, Road America he had a 16th. So this could be a good day for Akabueze. For Rashad Craig, though, as you said, his best finish is 3rd. He's had a couple of times. At least he'll do better than that if he keeps it out of the fence.
Yeah, he'll get a 2nd place. I think he's going to be a little bit annoyed, though, that he had to win everything going right in his direction, but just didn't account for it being possible, really, to fuel save enough.
33 laps led this race out of the 40 that we have completed.
Going to sting a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say so, but it's not over yet. I mean, Akabueze still has to execute this. Again, he's well within margin of making this work, but if he gets a pit lane speeding violation or makes any mistake, actually, he doesn't need to pit anymore, so he's done.
No.
Well, never mind. He still can hit the wall.
He can still make a mistake on the track, yeah. Or someone else, if he's getting around traffic, he could put himself in the wall. I mean, we saw that last season, and that allowed Brandon Traynor to walk away with the championship. Long Beach usually ends up being throwing a wrench into things.
Usually it's towards the tail end of the season as well.
Yeah.
So it's been like that
it's
for years.
It's like the Richmond of NASCAR.
very much like that. It's weird because it's in the spring. I mean, I guess we do everything in the spring in IES, but we run it in the spring in the real world. And I suppose where they have it actually makes a lot of sense right before the 500. But we just end our season at Indy versus going all the way to the end. I don't even know where IndyCar ends nowadays. Nashville this year, I think?
Yes.
The Oval, though?
Used to love when they finished it at California. That felt like a good ending to the season.
Everything was better in 2009. That's not true.
I mean,
That's not
yes
true.
and no.
That's not true. That's the
The
lie.
series has gotten a lot bigger than it was.
Especially after the remerger.
I was going to make a note about the economy, but 2009 wasn't exactly a strong year then either, was it?
Well, 2025 is starting to look like that.
The more things change, the more they stay the same, Finian. History repeats itself.
You might see a change here for position. AJ Musselman catching up to Craig Forsyth. This battle's been brewing for quite a while.
Jay Raymond says we peaked in 2009. Yeah, I peaked when I was 11 too, buddy. 10 laps to go, next time by the stripe. And this battle, you're right, it's for 7th place. This is pretty hot. And Jesper Orman might save the game a couple spots here if these two tangle.
Well, funny enough, it looks like he's found the push-to-pass button. He didn't touch it for half the race. He's gone from 200 to 82 seconds, so he's been on it pretty strong, and he kind of has to because he really needs some points. And he's stuck back in 9th. He's got 2 ahead of him. There he is back on the push-to-pass, so is Musselman. And they're both trying to catch up to Craig Forsyth here. All 3 of them are expected to go to the end.
72 seconds left. 45 for Musselman. And for Forsyth, 89, so a little bit more advantageous. Love this shot over the shoulder here, Musselman through that fountain section. One of the prettiest corners in road racing, I think, that run through the fountain.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely beautiful. I was always amazed that there's no wall.
Orman, I think, got in the fence out of turn 5 there. Took the nose off the car.
He's missing half a wing. That's absolutely not what he needed, but I mean, as far as where he's running at the moment, he didn't really have much else to lose. Oh, that's a decent hit.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just the wing.
Yeah, so he turns in a little late, and watch what happens here. See, their marbles are really close to the racing line. As soon as he gets on them, just goes straight. And then this is a pretty big impact there. Ooh, that might tear up the suspension a little, too.
Yeah, I was going to say he's going to, I think, have to pit. I was not surprised he didn't have a meatball. And he will stay out.
See if he can hustle it for a couple laps. I mean, he's not really in danger of losing a position. Joe Branch is another entire lap behind him, so he might as well just make it work. But Musselman and Forsyth, this is a battle that is not over yet. Also, Craig is going to owe us a pit stop in the next lap or two. He's on 21 laps into his run.
Yeah, Ray Craig should be coming into the pits next couple of laps. And then they'll hand the lead back over to Hamilton Akabueze.
Woo, man, that's such a fun corner, but it's so risky. Those tires jump out at you at corner exit. So 24 seconds is the gap back to Akabueze. So we do expect the 7 to take the lead from Rashad Craig.
And Marquez also in, so no.
I didn't see him enter, so when I saw that bar lit up right on my timing screen, I had a panic moment for a minute. And here comes Craig from the race lead in. So how many laps has he led now? 36 laps, 37 now as he crosses the stripe. And it's all going to go away because Akabueze should take the lead here with about 7-8 laps to go.
And there he's riding out of the final corner, Akabueze, and across the start-finish line, and finally back in the lead.
And now has led a couple laps by virtue of that late pit stop earlier. So Rashad Craig's going to come out of the box, and that long pit exit is going to cost him. Oh, this is just so painful.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a pretty sizable gap for Akabueze now.
About 15 seconds, which is what I was expecting it to be.
And after leading so much of this race, that is going to be a heartbreaking gap to see. And all he can do is hope that Akabueze is miscalculated, but with all the tools they have available to them, I don't think that will be a discrete possibility. No. And Akabueze's got so much time, he can really afford to lay off, and we'll probably see that here. You see, got on the wall there a little bit.
You always have to be careful, though, because we always talk about drivers and we kind of back it off conservative, but that's sometimes where the mistakes pop up. You kind of get into a groove and you get into a rhythm, and then you have to readjust by, backing off a little bit more. You can actually find yourself, I speak from experience, making more mistakes doing so.
You just tend to make a lot of mistakes in general.
I mean, yes, but
I think I was the one that killed the car in the 6 hours last year, though. So Here we go, battle for 7th. Here comes Musselman, takes a look at Forsythe up the inside at turn 1. He is putting so much pressure on it. Ooh, got a little slow there through the chicane.
Yeah, he was going to be very careful running right behind someone in this section of track. You see the loss in grip there as
Forsythe
Musselman lights up the tires.
Oh, that was so tight. Oh, man.
And both of them really pushing. I mean, this is where all the strategies come to a head right here in these last 10 or so laps. So everyone's coming together and where the strategies are merging. And you can see some passes being made. Musselman a little bit offline, gets very close to the tire barrier.
Game of chicken every time.
And up ahead, David Adams, Andrew Wood, that battle for 4th place heating up inside the top 5. Adams on the push pass trying to catch back up. It's a little bit more, about 26 more seconds left to use compared to Wood. So this battle very much on. Ooh, Adams a little bit too close on the braking zone.
Yeah, Musselman dropped off of Forsythe there, the last sector, the last time around. About 6 laps to go next time by the stripe. And battle's heating up around the racetrack, but it is not heating up for the lead. Hamilton Akabueze has put himself in a position to steal this race win back after he won pole by half a second, underfueled the car, had to start from the pit lane, made an early pit stop, drove up about halfway through the field. Then it became clear that he was trying a strategy to save a pit stop, only pit one time, has put himself on the primary tire, is going to take it to the end, in theory. Oh. He's pushing hard. He got in the wall there a little bit. You mentioned you can't change up your rhythm too much.
I don't, you know, if you save as much fuel as you did the first run, so just don't change anything. Just keep running the same pace you've been running. Oh, but he has been pushing 108.2 last lap.
That's pretty quick on the primary.
That is really quick for a primary tire lap. He's pushing hard.
Yeah, we've seen it. He's gotten in the wall a couple of times. But he's hit it pretty flush and square. It's when you hit it with the corners that you start damaging things. I'm not saying you should hit any concrete walls anywhere, but if you're gonna, might as well hit it flush. Look at all the marbles collecting at turn 11. It's messy out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you look at some of the tracks, they've not seen a lot of marble buildup, so it's kind of nice to see it. I know at one point it was a little bit too extreme.
It's so single groove here that if you get off the line at all, especially up at turn 6, or turn 5 rather. Nope, turn 5. Not this one. You know, you can see how close it is to the rumbles because they've been really tackling the curbing. If you are to take the line without using the curbs, you're in the marbles. You have to be on them. They also visually look way nicer than they used to. I shouldn't say that as well.
They did a great job. But I mean, it's fairly realistic because a lot of this track is very single groove.
Yep. Things are tight and tense for a couple of places, most notably for 7th place still. It's taken Musselman a couple of laps to work up the energy forward on Craig Forsythe, but this is far from over here between these two.
Yeah, Musselman all the way back up, battle back on.
Puff of smoke there. I think that was out of the 99.
And Craig Forsythe notably more push pass seconds left for him to use compared to Musselman, about 30 seconds and change difference in Forsythe's favor. Neither of them on the push pass on the straightaway, though. Orman using it in behind them as he's trying to manage that gap, and I think he's hoping both of these guys crash.
Yeah, much better run through turn 1 for Musselman. Good charge into the fountain section as well, but Forsythe gets a strong run out. The ebb and flow of street racing, who's attacking where. This is the trouble spot, turn 5. We've seen drivers get really aggressive, little wiggle there for Forsythe.
And tough for Forsythe because he's looking in his mirror, but then also looking ahead. Oh, contact as Forsythe parked the bus, damage to Musselman, a little bit to the wing. Not as much as would have thought.
Not anticipating that at all. Park the bus is right. He stopped on the apex. Yeah, that was a big hit there. Probably affect that battle. All the while, the 1-4-4 is still heating up. Andrew Wood and David Adams. Adams is a little quicker, 3/10 better last time, but he's got to find a way around.
Yeah, it's the tricky part, is finding that way around. Of course, the best passing opportunity is into turn 1. I see a lot of drivers stretch their legs, although we've seen a couple passes in turn 6, turn 8. As Adams trying to close that gap. Andrew Wood doing the best he can to defend. Andrew Wood, got to say, has had a decent run to the end of the season. First part a little bit rocky. Adams got very close on the apex at turn 8.
Got to find the advantages where you can. out front. Akabueze coming to 2 laps to go next time by. That gap has grown. This is just going to be a really impressive performance. Now, I thought he might have had the pace to drive up there on his own. That would have been impressive, but it became clear about halfway through the race that he wasn't actually faster than Rashad Craig, all things equal. They've been very equivalent on pace this race, although Craig's best lap is quicker than Akabueze's by about 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, that's because Akabueze, the bigger picture, wasn't necessarily trying to push. Just keep it a decent gap, make up that time on the racetrack, and here he is executing. And he's actually expanding the gap. I think it's about 16 seconds and change when he came out of the pits, and it's now up to 17 seconds.
He's not relying on that gap. He's charging regardless.
Yeah, he went 8 flat last time by. And he's not touched the push-pass button at all this entire race. I mean, he really can't afford to because he has to save the fuel.
I wonder if he didn't even have it mapped. You'd think he'd press it once just for fun.
That's what I thought, if he was pushing at least one of these laps, just to try to really kind of fast lap it.
Whoa, big flat slide for Wood through turn 9. Tires were protesting that. Musselman all over Forsyth. That damage isn't holding them back too much. They're both running pretty off the pace, though.
I think they're really psyching each other out. I think try to look in each other's mirrors, making dives, making moves.
Adam stays in line here for turn 1, but that Jaws music still playing in the helmet for Andrew Wood here in the closing moments of this one. Hamilton Akabueze has just 11 corners to go. 1 lap remains here at the streets of Long Beach for the number 7, who started on pole. And if you tuned in on the pace lap and now, you would think nothing has happened in this race. But I promise you it's been a busy day.
Yeah, busy day, a lot of work for Akabueze, even though it's not really been necessarily passing race cars on the track, but he's had done a decent amount of passing. He's also just managing fuel, managing his strategy, and assuming something catastrophic doesn't happen in the next minute or so, or if he doesn't run out of fuel from miscalculation, he really executed this to a T.
I mean, the only cars that he didn't pass naturally were Craig and Ike. Everyone else he had to pass. I know there's a couple cars that had incidents, but he did pass basically the entire field, and it just really took the strategy to get those last 2 positions. And he got them by a lot. 18 seconds now is the differential, and the battle between Forsyth and Musselman will go another lap because he is yet to lap them. It's still very tight between Wood and David Adams. They just started their final lap. But what a drive for Hamilton Akabueze. Yet to win on a road course this season, but he will change that in the penultimate race of the season for the Catalyst 317 Indy Elite Series. Hamilton Akabueze from the back of the grid to win at Long Beach. What a drive.
Yeah, I feel bad for ever doubting him. He had a chance of winning this thing, but managed to execute it. And for Rashad Craig, it's going to be bittersweet here. Led majority of the laps, had some great pace, but unfortunately, the strategy reigned supreme for Akabueze. He'll come home in 2nd place.
Yeah, Craig, that is an unfortunate result. I'd say 37 laps led and no win to speak of, and it wasn't like he did anything wrong. He did everything like everybody else. He would have won this race by 15 seconds if it wasn't for the 7 and his meddling kids. But across the stripe here comes Andreas Ike, P3 podium for the 76. Strong day there. Now back to this battle, Andrew Wood and David Adams. Woo, that was close.
Adams almost losing out on the top 5 into the wall, into the concrete wall, just 100 meters from the start-finish line, but will save it, come home in 5th. Marquez coming home lonely in 6th. And the battle for 7th place, Forsyth versus Musselman.
But Forsyth in 99, Musselman in the 54. Gave it everything he had, but it'll be Forsyth 7th, Musselman in 8th. Everyone else a lap down or more. Orman 9th. That's a disappointing day where he could have really capitalized on the absence of points leader Jacob Oster. Joe Branch, last driver running on the racetrack, 10th place. Pedro Blubble 11th. Number of laps down. All right, well, that was a little bit more interesting than I thought we were going to have based on how things started the night, but here's a look at your race results. Akabueze steals it away. Again, if you tuned in on the pace lap and now, you would have thought, okay, he led the whole race, but he didn't lead all that many laps. He only led 12th compared to Rashad Craig's 37.
Yeah, like you mentioned, if you looked at the first lap, if you looked at the pacing lap. And if you looked at the final lap, you would have thought nothing would have changed. But Hamilton Akwaeze coming home with a fantastic drive, executing just on the racetrack, in the pits as well. Everything went perfectly for him, taking home the win. Rashad Craig, second place for him. Strong run in that 21. You have to give him credit where credit is due. Had some really, really good pace, but just not enough to overcome the Akwaeze strategy. Then Andreas Ike, Andrew Wood, and David Adams are not your top 5.
And then looking down, Andrew Marquez in the 63 had a pretty good run going, but will have to settle for 6th. Craig Forsyth, 7th place. Good battle there with AJ Musselman to the end. Jesper Orman, again, missed opportunity tonight, just never really had the pace, and his opportunity to win the championship will have to wait until the Indianapolis 500 in a couple of weeks' time. Joe Branch, 10th place in the 28, had a couple of run-ins with the tire bundles there. They won that battle, I think, but still a top 10. Pedro Blebel, Mark Murphy, Julian Altena, trouble early on. For Murphy and Altena, crashed out, did not complete the race. Blebel down about 10 laps. So while we wait for someone to join us in the booth here, we do have Andrew Wood, so let's talk with Andrew. P4 tonight in the number 64. This race always has a ton of attrition, Andrew, but tonight you outlasted it and managed to grab a top 5. But the strategy by Akwaeze vaults him to the front and denies you a potential podium. Take us through your night here on the streets of Long Beach.
Yeah, well, it's good to be with you guys. I actually forgot that there was a race until about an hour ago, an hour before the race started. So luckily I had just done our league race here on Thursday. So I didn't even use really a team setup. I kind of used a setup that was in a league from a few nights ago, because that's just what I was used to driving. Wasn't really the fastest, but I knew how to drive it. So I feel like I could just kind of figure it out really fast, kind of just reacquaint myself. And yeah, it just getting the rust off for the first 5-10 minutes of my practice there wasn't really that good. So I always knew I was going to kind of start towards the back, but if I just kept my nose clean, start on the hard tires, and then maybe try and jump some people later on, that was the exact strategy that I wanted, and it's exactly what I got. So I'm very, very happy with 4th tonight. I almost wanted to be a start and park tonight just because of the lack of people that showed up here, but I actually had a lot of fun battling with some of the guys in the mid-pack there.
There was a lot of great racing around the track, and the different strategies made things interesting. Tell us about the tires tonight, because we were watching drivers ebb and flow on the alternate versus the primary. And in the past, this season, the alternate tire died pretty quickly, but it lasted a long time. Drivers could take it, run their best lap of the session, 20 laps in. So what was the difference for you tonight? Was it just feel? Because the lap time seemed pretty good.
Yeah, I think compared to, if you want to take my Thursday night race, it didn't seem like the tires really wore at all. The softer tire definitely seemed to last for a long period of time, so that's kind of what I was waiting for. But no one really wants to run those primary tires for much longer than they have to there. So it was basically just trying to conserve life in the alternate tires, and that's exactly what I wanted to do here. I didn't really think that I'd have that much of a battle from Adams there, and shout out to him for a really good one there. But I think the strategy was to always run those softer tires as long as you possibly could and try your best to save the life, because the track temp was kind of hot tonight.
Well, it was good enough for a 4th place tonight from 9th place on the grid. Andrew Wood, top 5 tonight here at Long Beach. We're looking forward to seeing you in the Indianapolis 500 here, presented by Catalyst 317 in a few weeks' time. Thanks so much. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And Rashad Craig tonight, 37 laps led. And it just came down to a strategy call, and not one that anybody was expecting. And it was sort of because Akwaeze made a mistake, didn't fuel the car, had to start from the tail of the field. And it looked like this race was in your hands, Rashad, until the very end. What are you feeling tonight? Because you had great pace, and this could have been your race to have.
It's hard to describe, man. Like, it's I worked so hard to get the car the way it is, and practicing and working on the setup for weeks, and man, for it to come down to like the strategy call like that and to make an insane save like that, like hats off to Hamilton. Like props to him, because that save was absolutely insane. Like, we didn't think he could make it, but he did. And but still good to bring the car in P2. Kind of not feeling great because didn't qualify well. Thought I was going to have a real battle on my hands, but bringing it P2 still feels pretty good. Just not the result I was hoping for getting towards the end of the race.
Yeah, certainly heartbreaking there just because you led so many laps. This, I believe, is your best finish in Indy Elite Series history, improving on your third that you had a couple of times, including earlier this season. So P2 brings some strong momentum into Indianapolis here in a couple of weeks. How do you feel about maybe coming out on top and winning that thing with a strong run here at Long Beach?
For Indy, it's going to be, I'm going to have to make a good strategy call on that one to be able to win that. Like, Indy's always hard, and like I said before, ovals are not my thing, but sometimes we get a good car, and it's a good day for me, and I have a strong race. So hopefully, then that race can make something happen and make that one more step.
Well, Craig, congratulations on the P2 tonight. I know it wasn't exactly what you wanted, but it'll have to do tonight. We'll see you at Indianapolis in a couple of weeks.
All right, thanks, guys.
And Hamilton Akabueze. Boy, we told people that if you tuned in on the pace lap and on the last lap, you would have thought nothing happened in this race. But boy, did it. Starting from the pits with that misfuel, but drove through basically the entire field, and it was a strategy call that won it, and it wasn't by a little. Rashad Craig led 37 laps. You led 12, 8 of which were the final laps of the race, Hamilton. So you're going to win your first road course race of the season. Take us through your thoughts. Tonight was a busy one, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of screwed it up. I was like, I waited to hop on the grid, and then I just, I look up, my fuel's at 1 gallon. I'm like, crap. So I probably should have been paying a little more attention, but it made my race pretty fun, to be honest. I mean, coming through the field a little bit while still fuel saving so hard was actually pretty fun, for sure. Made it more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we were just watching your lap times even while you were saving fuel, and when it became apparent that you were going to try to make it on just one stop, you were still making incredible lap times. What do you think is the key to saving fuel at this racetrack? Because the lift and coast method didn't really seem to cost you any time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm map 5 the whole time, and then also just...
I knew it.
Yeah, had to be. And I mean, yeah, the lifting coasting here, like in IMSA, like and stuff, you can do like no stops and it works well. So I knew it would be a thing. And yeah, here's a place where you can kind of just roll momentum into the corners and it really won't hurt you as bad, just as long as you still get like a good exit. It makes the track a little easier, to be honest, when you're fuel saving, because you don't have to really push as hard on entries and everything, you know. So yeah, just being smooth.
Well, your last lap after 25 laps on the primary tire was only 0.2 off your best. So really consistent pace, and maybe a winner that we could have guessed before the first lap began, but it took a little bit more work on your part tonight, Hamilton. Congratulations. Third win of the season, first on a road course. A lot of momentum headed into Indy here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be fun. I'll try to get more of my teammates to run that for sure, just to get a full field. It's good practice for the real 500, so yeah, it should be fun.
Hamilton Akabueze wins at Long Beach. Thanks for talking. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, Finian, what a race. Was not expecting that sort of curveball, but we got it. And it was a great event to watch, actually. I like Long Beach. It can be hard to pass, but with the strategy, it made things pretty spicy, I have to say.
Yeah, always fun to see a wrench being thrown into things, especially when even we, the commentators, don't expect it. So fantastic stuff, great strategy by Akabueze getting it done. But yeah, that's going to be the penultimate race, the final road race of this series. And of course, heading into the main event, the IES Indianapolis 500 10th annual edition in just a couple weeks time.
That'll be April 27th. For the 10th annual Indianapolis 500 presented by Catalyst 317, the last race in at least for the foreseeable future for the Indy Elite Series. And what a fun night. What a great way to kind of close out road racing in the chapter here of the Indy Elite Series on the streets of Long Beach here in iRacing. Kyle Heyer, Finian D'Acuna. We'll see you in a couple of weeks on April 27th for the Indy 500 presented by Catalyst 317, the 10th iteration, the final iteration. We'll see you there.